On my 35th birthday, I stand on the rooftop of the Everlasting, the most exclusive hotel in the city that bears my name, Charlotte Day. Thousands of people have gathered in the streets below for the annual Charlotte Day Festival, a national celebration I created after my rebirth. Fireworks explode overhead, painting my name across the night sky. My phone buzzes with birthday wishes from celebrities, politicians, and business moguls, and then his name appears on my screen. James Porter, the man who once forgot my birthday 5 years in a row when we were married. The man whose negligence led to my death in my previous life. Happy birthday, Charlotte. His message reads, "Can we talk? I need your help." I smile as I delete his message. 15 years ago in my first life, I died alone on my birthday while he was at a business dinner he claimed he couldn't miss. Now, in my second chance at life, I've made sure my birthday is a day no one in the country can ignore, especially him. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say it's best served with a trademark, a festival, and the sweet taste of success. The first time James forgot my birthday, I made excuses for him. We'd only been married for 8 months, and he was in the middle of launching his first startup. The pressure was intense. I knew that better than anyone. I'd been the one holding his hand through sleepless nights, reassuring him when investors pulled out, celebrating minor victories with cheap champagne in our tiny apartment. "I'm so sorry, Charlotte," he said when he came home at midnight, to find me asleep on the couch, a half-eaten cake on the coffee table. The meeting ran late, and then Eric wanted to discuss strategy over drinks, and I lost track of time. I smiled and told him it was fine, because back then, I still believed I mattered to him. The second time, I was less understanding. "You promised, James." I stood in our kitchen, still wearing the new dress I'd bought for the dinner reservation he'd made and then abandoned. "You literally made the reservation yourself." I know. He ran his hands through his hair, the gesture I once found endearing, now just irritating. But this investor could change everything for us, for our future. I couldn't say no. I wanted to scream that I was his future too, but instead I said, "You could have called earlier." "I'm making it up to you this weekend," he promised, kissing my forehead. "Anywhere you want to go." We never went anywhere. There was always another meeting, another crisis, another reason why his work couldn't wait, but I could. The third year, I didn't even get a phone call until the next day. "It completely slipped my mind," he admitted, not even bothering to sound particularly sorry anymore. "We were finalizing the Series B funding and—" "Save it," I said. "I get it. The company comes first." "That's not fair, Charlotte. This is for us. I'm building this for our future." The bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. "Are you? Because it feels like you're building a life I'm not included in." By the fourth year, I'd stopped expecting anything. I bought myself a small cake, opened a bottle of wine, and watched old movies alone in our beautiful new house that never felt like a home. When he texted at 10 p.m. to say he'd be working late, I simply replied okay and poured another glass. The fifth year, I tried one last time to make him see me. I left hints everywhere. A brochure for a weekend getaway on his desk, a saved date on our shared calendar, even a joking comment about getting older during dinner the week before. None of it worked. He still accepted a dinner meeting with potential investors from Singapore. He still told me it was unmissable. He still promised to make it up to me. I still ended up alone. Only this time, I decided to go to him, to make him see me, even if it meant embarrassing us both. I never made it to that restaurant. Instead, I died on a rain-slicked bridge, my car spinning out of control like my life had been doing for years. My last thought wasn't about James, despite what romantic movies might have you believe. It was the stark realization that I'd become invisible in my own life. Until I wasn't anymore. My 35th birthday began like many before it, with cautious hope wrapped in layers of practiced indifference. "Morning," James mumbled, his eyes already fixed on his phone as I entered the kitchen. Then he glanced up, something apparently registering. "Hey, it's your birthday, right?" The spark of hope flared before I could suppress it. "Yeah. We should do something tonight." He squeezed my shoulder as he moved past me to the coffee maker. "I'll make a reservation somewhere nice." "You don't have meetings?" I asked, trying to keep the skepticism out of my voice. "Nothing that can't be rescheduled for my wife's birthday." He grinned, and for a moment, I saw flashes of the James I'd fallen in love with. The one who used to surprise me with picnics between classes, who once wrote me a love letter on a napkin when we couldn't afford proper stationery. That would be nice, I said, allowing myself to believe him. I can be ready by 7. Perfect. He kissed me quickly before grabbing his travel mug. I've got to run, but I'll see you tonight. 7 o'clock. At work, my day passed in the usual blur of marketing meetings and campaign approvals. I was good at my job, respected, but not remarkable. Unlike James, whose company was generating buzz throughout the tech industry, I'd settled into comfortable competence. Sometimes I wondered if that was part of our problem, if he'd outgrown me along with our starter apartment and discount furniture. My team got me a small cake at lunch. My assistant gave me a gift card to my favorite bookstore. My mother called to wish me happy birthday and to ask, with poorly disguised concern, if James was doing anything special this year. He's taking me to dinner, I said, the words sounding hollow even to my own ears. That's wonderful, honey. Her voice carried too much relief. Everyone knew. Everyone had been watching our marriage gradually disintegrate, watching me make excuses for his absences, watching me shrink myself to fit into the corners of his life. At 5, I left work early to prepare for our dinner. I wanted to look my best, not just for him, but for myself. I needed to feel like I mattered, like I was worth showing up for. The first text came at 5:45. Might be running a bit late, meeting going long, 7:30 okay? I texted back, sure, reservation? Made it for 8 just to be safe. Le Bernardin, wear that blue dress I like. The blue dress, at least he remembered that. I continued getting ready, pushing away the familiar feeling of dread building in my stomach. At 6:50, my phone buzzed again. Something's come up. Singapore investors in town unexpectedly. Need to meet them tonight. Can't miss this opportunity. I stared at the message, already dressed in the blue dress he said he liked, my hair and makeup done. The same investors he'd mentioned earlier in the week. The unexpected meeting that was clearly planned before he ever promised me dinner. Are you serious? I typed, then deleted it. Again? I typed, then deleted that too. Instead, I wrote, where are you meeting them? Osteria, downtown? I'm really sorry, Charlotte. I'll make it up to you this weekend. I promise. Osteria wasn't a business restaurant. It was casual, trendy. The kind of place you took people you wanted to impress with your coolness, not your professionalism. This wasn't some emergency formal meeting. This was drinks and dinner with people he'd rather spend time with than me. I sat on our bed, fully dressed with nowhere to go, and felt something inside me finally break. Not with a dramatic snap, but with the quiet finality of something that had been fractured for too long, finally giving way. I grabbed my keys and my purse. I wasn't going to spend another birthday alone in this house, waiting for someone who wouldn't come home until I was asleep. The rain started as I pulled out of our driveway. Just a light drizzle at first, barely noticeable. By the time I reached downtown, it had become a proper storm. Fat drops pounding against my windshield as my wipers struggled to keep up. Parking a block away from Osteria, I didn't even bother with an umbrella. Let the rain ruin my hair, my makeup, my dress. None of it mattered anymore. Through the restaurant's windows, I spotted him immediately, laughing, gesturing animatedly, holding court at a table with 3 men and 2 women, all dressed casually, all clearly enjoying themselves. No tense business negotiations, no unmissable opportunity. Just my husband choosing, once again, not to miss anything except me. I waited outside under the awning of a closed shop, watching him through the glass as the minutes ticked by. When they finally emerged, huddled under umbrellas and parting with handshakes and laughter, I stepped forward. James! He froze, recognition and then guilt washing over his face. Charlotte, what are you... I thought I'd see this unmissable business opportunity for myself. My voice was calm, detached, as if I were discussing the weather with a stranger. Listen, I can explain. No need. I saw everything I needed to see. The rain plastered my hair to my face, running down my cheeks like the tears I refused to shed. The investors awkwardly excused themselves, leaving us alone on the wet sidewalk. You're overreacting, James said, lowering his voice. This dinner could mean millions for the company, for us. There is no us, James. There hasn't been for a long time. Don't be dramatic. It's just a birthday. We can celebrate another day. Just a birthday. The words hit me like a physical blow. It's not just a birthday, I said, my voice finally breaking. It's 5 birthdays. It's our anniversary last month. It's Christmas at my parents' that you missed. It's every date night canceled, and every weekend you spent at the office, and every time you made me feel like I'm nothing but an inconvenience in your big, important life. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is making promises you never intend to keep. What's not fair is making me believe I still matter to you when clearly I don't. Of course you matter, he said, reaching for me, but I stepped back. No, I don't, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. I turned and walked away, his calls fading behind me as the rain intensified. My hands shook as I unlocked my car. My vision blurred. From tears or rain, I couldn't tell anymore. I drove too fast, needing to put distance between us, between the person I'd become and the person I'd been before him. The windshield fogged up. The wipers couldn't keep up. The headlights of oncoming traffic blinded me momentarily, and then the bridge, the sharp turn, the skid. The crash through the guardrail happened in slow motion, giving me time for one last, crystal-clear thought. No one will even notice I'm gone. I wake up gasping, my heart pounding against my ribs like it's trying to escape. My hand flies to my chest, expecting to find it crushed or bleeding, but there's only smooth, uninjured skin beneath my fingertips. Charlotte, you okay? The voice jolts me upright, a voice I haven't heard in years, not since college. Lisa, I croak, my own voice sounding strange to my ears. My roommate peers at me from the other bed in our cramped dorm room, her face young and unlined in the dim light filtering through the blinds. You were like making weird noises in your sleep. Bad dream? I stare at her, unable to process what I'm seeing. Lisa Wong, my freshman year roommate, who I haven't spoken to since our sophomore year when she transferred to another school, 15 years ago. What? I clear my throat, which feels oddly tight. What day is it? Lisa gives me a weird look. Tuesday, the 23rd. You were up late studying for that marketing midterm, remember? Marketing midterm, sophomore year, before I changed my major to communications. Before I met James. Before everything. What year? I whisper. Now she looks genuinely concerned. Okay, you're freaking me out. It's 2010. Did you drink something weird at that party last night? 2010, 15 years ago. I bolt from the bed and into our shared bathroom, flipping on the harsh fluorescent light. The face that stares back at me from the mirror is both familiar and foreign. My face, but younger. Much younger. The faint lines around my eyes are gone. The highlights I've maintained in my hair for the past decade are absent. I'm looking at 20-year-old Charlotte Day. I died. I know I died. I remember the crash, the water filling the car, the struggle for breath, and then nothing. Until now. I'm calling the RA, Lisa says from the doorway. You're acting super weird. No, I spin around. I'm fine, just disoriented. Bad dream, like you said. She doesn't look convinced, but shrugs. Whatever, I'm going to breakfast. Coming? I'll catch up with you. As soon as she's gone, I rush back to my side of the room. Everything is exactly as it was in college. My textbooks stacked on the desk, the tacky fairy lights we thought were so sophisticated strung around the window, the corkboard covered in photos and concert tickets. I grab my phone, an ancient flip phone I haven't seen in years, and check the date. October 23rd, 2010. I click through to the calendar and count forward, my heart stopping when I reach a certain date. May 16th, 2025. The day I died. My 35th birthday. 15 years away. My legs give out and I sink onto the bed. This isn't possible. People don't die and wake up in their past. This doesn't happen. But it has happened. Somehow, impossibly, I've been given a second chance. The question is, what am I going to do with it? 3 days later, I'm still trying to adjust to being back in my 20-year-old life. I've gone through the motions, attending classes I barely remember, nodding along to conversations about people and events long forgotten, pretending everything is normal while my mind spins with 15 years of memories that haven't happened yet. And then I see him. He's crossing the quad with a group of friends, laughing at something, his head thrown back in that carefree way I'd almost forgotten. James Porter, young, unburdened, beautiful. My heart constricts painfully in my chest. In this timeline, we haven't met yet. That happens next semester, in the advanced marketing seminar we both take. He'll sit next to me on the third day of class, borrow a pen, and change the course of my life. He glances in my direction, a casual sweep of his eyes that carries no recognition. Of course not. To him, I'm just another face in the crowd. I duck behind a column, suddenly unable to breathe. What am I supposed to do now? The obvious answer seems to be, avoid him completely. Don't take that marketing seminar. Don't lend him that pen. Don't fall in love with the man who will eventually make me feel so insignificant that I drive off a bridge on my birthday. But as I watch him walk away, laughing with his friends, I feel something unexpected stir alongside the hurt and anger. Possibility, power. I know things now. Not just about James and our relationship, but about everything. Which companies will succeed, which trends will emerge, which skills will become valuable. In my previous life, I was a competent but unremarkable marketing executive. Now, I have the chance to be extraordinary. And maybe, just maybe, a part of that will involve showing James Porter exactly what he missed by making me invisible. Excuse me, is this seat taken? I look up, startled out of my thoughts. A young Asian woman stands beside me, gesturing to the empty chair at my library table. No, go ahead, I say automatically. Thanks, I'm Eliza, by the way. Eliza Chen. She sticks out her hand with a confidence I immediately envy. I shake it, the name triggering a distant memory. Charlotte Day, nice to meet you. As she unpacks her laptop, it clicks. Eliza Chen. In my first life, I knew of her but never actually met her. She was that student everyone knew about but a few actually knew. Her family owned half the commercial real estate downtown. After graduation, she went on to become some kind of international business consultant. I saw her once at a conference, surrounded by people eager to connect with her. And now she's sitting across from me, asking if I have the notes from Professor Martin's marketing psychology lecture. Actually, I do. I pull out my notebook, suddenly seeing an opportunity I never had in my first life. Here, you can copy them if you want. You're a lifesaver. She smiles, and I find myself smiling back. Maybe avoiding James isn't the only strategy available to me. Maybe this second chance is about more than just dodging past mistakes. Maybe it's about creating something entirely new. You're changing your major? Now? Lisa looks at me like I've suggested we go skydiving without parachutes. It's the middle of sophomore year. I know what I'm doing, I tell her, with the confidence of someone who's literally lived through this decision before. Except last time, I changed from marketing to communications because James suggested it would complement his business degree better. This time, I'm switching to a double major in business and event management. But you've always talked about working at an ad agency, she persists. I shrug. Plans change. What I don't tell her is that I've spent the past month meticulously planning my new future. In my previous life, I followed a safe, conventional path that led to a respectable but ultimately unsatisfying career. This time around, I'm leveraging my knowledge of future trends to position myself ahead of the curve. My professors are already taking notice. Last week, Dr. Reynolds asked me to stay after class to discuss my surprisingly insightful analysis of how social media would transform brand engagement. You have an almost uncanny ability to predict where the market is heading, he told me, studying me with newfound interest. Have you considered applying for the Whitman Fellowship? I hadn't, because in my first life, I never would have qualified. But this time, with my foreknowledge and different focus, it's suddenly within reach. The following week, I see James in the campus coffee shop. He's sitting alone typing on his laptop, exactly where he used to tell me he was working when we first started dating. My stomach clenches with a mixture of anger and unwanted longing. In my first life, I'd have found a reason to sit nearby, to strike up a conversation. He'd have smiled that crooked smile that made my heart race, and within an hour, he'd have asked for my number. Instead, I turn around and leave, even though he hasn't noticed me. I have other priorities now. Charlotte, wait up! Eliza Chen jogs to catch up with me on the pathway outside. We've been studying together regularly since that day in the library, a friendship that never happened in my first timeline. I was just coming to find you, she says, falling into step beside me. Did you finish the business proposal for Martin's class? Last night, I nod. You? Just now, but I'm not happy with it. She grimaces. I can't decide if my concept is too conventional or too risky. Let me see it, I offer. We find a bench and she pulls out her laptop. Her proposal is for a luxury concierge app, something that won't become common for another 5 years in my original timeline. I feel a strange vertigo as I read it, knowing exactly how successful this kind of service will eventually become. This is brilliant, I tell her honestly. She looks surprised. Really? My dad thinks it's wasteful. He says rich people already have assistants. Your dad is thinking about how things work now. This, I tap her laptop screen, is how they'll work in the future. Trust me. Eliza studies me with newfound curiosity. You know, you're different from most people our age. It's like you see things others don't. If she only knew. I just pay attention, I say. Well, I'm glad you're paying attention to my work. She grins. Hey, I'm hosting a small party at my place Friday night. You should come. In my first life, I'd have been at James's intramural basketball game Friday night, cheering from the sidelines while he barely noticed my presence. The memory stings. I'd love to, I say, making a conscious choice to build this new friendship instead. The Whitman Fellowship application is due the same day as Eliza's party. I submit it that morning, including my detailed predictions about influencer marketing, a term that barely exists yet, but will become ubiquitous within 5 years. Professor Marcus Wells calls me into his office the following Monday. Your application was remarkable, he says, studying me with intense interest. Particularly your forecasting models. I've never seen anything quite like them from an undergraduate. Marcus Wells. In my first life, he published a groundbreaking paper on digital marketing evolution 3 years from now that would establish him as a leading authority in the field. I remember reading it, being impressed by his foresight. Now I have a chance to impress him. Thank you, Professor. I've been researching emerging trends in marketing and consumer behavior. Researching doesn't quite cover it. You're practically clairvoyant. He leans forward. I'm working on a research paper about digital evolution in marketing. Would you be interested in contributing? The paper, his landmark work that will define his career. I'd be honored, I say, feeling a strange thrill at the chance to shape something I once admired from afar. As I leave his office, I spot James across the courtyard. He's looking directly at me this time, his expression curious. For a moment, our eyes meet, and I feel the familiar pull I've been fighting for months. He starts walking toward me, and in that instant, I have to make a choice. Stay and let our paths cross as they did before, or walk away and maintain the new trajectory I've worked so hard to establish. I turn and walk in the opposite direction, my heart pounding. I'm not ready to face him yet. Not until I've become someone he can't possibly make invisible. 5 years later, I'm standing in the office of my own marketing and events consulting firm, staring out at the city skyline. At 25, I've accomplished more than I did by 35 in my previous life. The Whitman Fellowship led to an internship that never existed in my original timeline. Working with Professor Wells on his groundbreaking paper opened doors I never knew existed. His mentorship, combined with my uncanny ability to predict market trends, gave me a reputation as a visionary in the field. I never reconnected with James during college. I made sure our paths didn't cross again, changing my schedule when necessary, avoiding events I knew he'd attend. I heard about him occasionally, his startup launch during senior year, his initial struggles, his eventual modest success with a tech platform that connected local businesses. Nothing like the rapid success he achieved in my first timeline, when I was there supporting him, encouraging him, making sacrifices so he could focus on his ambitions. The thought gives me a complicated satisfaction. Charlotte, Eliza Chen is here to see you, my assistant announces through the intercom. Send her in. Eliza bursts through the door, as glamorous and confident as ever. After graduation, she launched her luxury concierge app with her family's backing and has since expanded it internationally. We've stayed in touch, our friendship growing into a valuable professional connection as well. Charlotte Day, she grins, embracing me. Making waves as usual, I see. That charity gala you organized last month is still all anyone can talk about. Just doing my job, I shrug, but I can't help smiling. The gala raised over $1 million and attracted coverage from major media outlets, exactly as I'd planned. Always so modest. Eliza rolls her eyes, settling into the chair across from my desk. Which is why I'm here, actually. I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. You know how my family owns half the commercial properties downtown? She leans forward. Well, the city council is looking to rebrand the summer festival season. Attendance has been dropping year after year. They need someone with fresh ideas. My heart skips a beat. In my previous life, I briefly worked on a small campaign for the city's summer events. A minor project that went nowhere special, but now... What are you suggesting? I ask, although I already know. I've recommended you to spearhead the rebranding. The whole thing needs a complete overhaul. New concept, new marketing strategy, new everything. You'd have full creative control. My mind races with possibilities. In my first life, I died feeling insignificant, a footnote in my own story. But here's an opportunity to create something lasting, something with my name on it. I'm interested, I say carefully, but I'd need to think about the concept. Of course. Eliza stands, heading for the door. Oh, and there's a committee meeting next Thursday. Several local business owners will be there to discuss potential sponsorships. She pauses. Including James Porter. You know him, right? From college? I keep my expression neutral, though my stomach tightens. I know of him. His company's doing well lately. They're looking to increase their local profile. Eliza studies me. You two would actually make a good team on this. His tech platform, your event expertise. I prefer to work independently, I say, perhaps too quickly. Eliza raises an eyebrow but doesn't press. Think about the festival concept. Let me know what you come up with. After she leaves, I sit at my desk, thoughts swirling. James. After all these years of careful avoidance, our paths are about to cross again. Part of me wants to refuse the project just to maintain that distance, but another part, the part that remembers crying alone on my birthdays, the part that remembers the rain and the bridge and my last thoughts before the crash, sees an opportunity. What if, instead of avoiding James Porter, I could make him see me? Really see me, in a way he never did before? I open my laptop and begin researching the city's history, looking for inspiration. And then, I find it, a forgotten historical event that took place on July 16th. My birthday. The original settlement that would become our city was established on that date in 1846. It's barely mentioned in most historical accounts, overshadowed by more dramatic events, but it's there, a perfect foundation for what I'm starting to envision. I sit back, a slow smile spreading across my face. What if I could transform my birthday, the day James repeatedly forgot the day I died, into something impossible to ignore? What if I could create Charlotte Day? You want to rebrand the summer festival as Charlotte Day? The city tourism director stares at me across the conference table, his expression hovering between confusion and amusement. Not exactly, I explain, clicking to the next slide in my presentation. I want to create an entirely new celebration centered around the city's founding date, July 16th. I don't mention it's also my birthday. That detail comes later, once the foundation is established. The Founders' Day concept has been tried before, an older woman on the committee points out. Attendance was dismal. Because it was presented as a dry historical commemoration, I counter. What I'm proposing is a modern festival that honors our heritage while creating new traditions, one that engages both locals and tourists through interactive experiences. I click through my meticulously prepared slides, outlining a vision that's both ambitious and achievable. Interactive historical exhibits enhanced by augmented reality. A marketplace showcasing local artisans, food vendors representing the city's diverse cultural influences, live music, family activities, and most importantly, branding that subtly incorporates my name. Not overtly, not yet, but laying the groundwork. The budget for this would be astronomical, the tourism director says, though I can see he's intrigued. Not necessarily, Eliza chimes in from her seat near the door. My family is prepared to offer several downtown venues at reduced rates for the event, and I've spoken with other potential sponsors who've expressed interest. Such as? The committee chair asks. Porter Digital Solutions, for one, Eliza says, and all eyes turn to James, who sits quietly at the end of the table. He's changed in the 5 years since college, filled out his lean frame, adopted a more polished appearance. Success looks good on him, just enough to have boosted his confidence without the arrogance that developed later in my first timeline. We're interested, he confirms, his voice sending an unwelcome shiver down my spine. A digitally integrated citywide event aligns perfectly with our platform's capabilities. Our eyes meet briefly across the table, the first direct eye contact we've had in this timeline. There's no recognition in his gaze, just professional interest. Of course, in this life, we've never actually met. I'm just another business contact to him. The irony isn't lost on me. The concept has potential, the tourism director admits after a long pause, but I'm not convinced about the timing. July is already packed with events, which is precisely why we need something distinctive, I interject. Something uniquely ours that can compete with neighboring cities' offerings. Let's put it to a vote, the committee chair suggests. The vote is 5-4 against my proposal. I'm prepared for this. In my first life, rejection often stopped me in my tracks. This time, it's merely the opening move in a longer game. I understand your concerns, I say calmly. Would the committee be open to a small-scale pilot event this year? A proof of concept, with minimal city resources required? They agree to this compromise, if only to appease Eliza's family, whose influence in local business matters is substantial. As the meeting disperses, James approaches me directly. I don't think we've formally met, he says, extending his hand. James Porter. I take his hand, fighting the surreal feeling of introducing myself to the man who was once my husband. Charlotte Day. His eyebrows rise slightly. Charlotte Day, like the festival you're proposing? A coincidence, I lie smoothly, though a convenient one for branding purposes. Very convenient, he says, studying me with increased interest. Your presentation was impressive. The committee's hesitation notwithstanding, I think you're onto something big. The compliment shouldn't affect me, but it does. A flutter of something I immediately suppress. Thank you. I believe it has potential. My company's still interested in collaborating despite the scaled-back approach, he continues. Our platform could handle event registration, mobile guides to activities, real-time updates, all the digital infrastructure you'd need. In my first life, this is how it began. James sharing his vision, me getting swept up in his enthusiasm. Not this time. I'll consider all potential partners equally, I say professionally. You can have your team send over a proposal. He looks slightly taken aback by my business-like tone, but recovers quickly. Of course. Looking forward to working together, Charlotte Day. The way he says my name, with a hint of a smile, as if we're sharing a private joke about its connection to the festival, reminds me so much of the James I first fell in love with that I have to excuse myself before my carefully constructed facade cracks. In the months that follow, I throw myself into creating the pilot event. I secure sponsorships from local businesses, negotiate with vendors, and coordinate with Eliza's family for venue access. I also, despite my initial reluctance, find myself working closely with James and his team on the digital components. The pilot Charlotte Day celebration is scheduled as a one-day event in a downtown park, modest in scale but designed to demonstrate the concept's potential. The historical connection provides legitimacy, while the contemporary elements attract diverse audiences. What no one on the committee knows is that I've also been quietly creating a personal brand strategy that aligns my name with the event. My company blog features Charlotte's day-to-day posts about event planning. My social media incorporates subtle nods to the festival concept. I commission a logo that will work equally well for the event and for my personal branding. The pilot event arrives on a perfect July day. Despite limited promotion, attendance exceeds our projections. The interactive historical exhibits draw families. The local vendor marketplace attracts shoppers. The evening concert fills the park's lawn, and everywhere on banners and programs and digital displays is the name, Charlotte Day Festival, my name. James finds me as the evening concert winds down, the pilot event an undeniable success. Congratulations, he says, handing me a glass of champagne from a nearby vendor. You pulled it off. The committee is impressed. I take the glass, careful not to let our fingers touch. It's just the beginning. Bold statement. He smiles, that crooked smile that once made my heart race. It still does, but now it's tangled with memories he doesn't share. Most people would be satisfied with today's success. I'm not most people. No, he agrees, studying me with genuine curiosity. You're not. I've been trying to figure you out, Charlotte Day. There's nothing to figure out, I reply, keeping my tone light. What you see is what you get. Somehow I doubt that. He gestures around at the festival. People don't create something like this without a deeper motivation. So what's yours? For a moment, I'm tempted to tell him the truth, that in another life, he repeatedly forgot my birthday until I died on that very day. That I've been given a second chance and I'm using it to ensure I'm never invisible again. And instead I say, I believe in creating experiences that matter, that people remember. Well, you've certainly succeeded. No one's going to forget Charlotte Day anytime soon. He raises his glass in a toast. To making your mark. The irony of his words isn't lost on me. I clink my glass against his, allowing myself this small moment of victory. To making my mark, I echo. 3 weeks later, the City Council votes unanimously to adopt the full-scale Charlotte Day Festival for the following year, with a substantial budget allocation. As I leave City Hall after the vote, I find James waiting by my car. I heard the good news, he says. Full approval and twice the budget you requested. Word travels fast. In this case, through Eliza, we had a meeting this morning. He shifts his weight, suddenly looking less confident than usual. Listen, I was wondering if you'd be interested in having dinner sometime, to discuss a more formal partnership between your event company and Porter Digital. In my first life, our first date was a coffee that turned into dinner that turned into breakfast the next morning. We fell hard and fast for each other. I wonder if the same chemistry would exist in this timeline now that I'm a different person. I also wonder if I'm strong enough to resist it. Send me a proper proposal, I tell him, keeping my voice professional. If it makes sense for the festival, we can discuss terms. Disappointment flickers across his face before he masks it. Of course, business first. I unlock my car, aware of him watching me. Was there something else? Just curious about something, he says. July 16th, is that really your birthday? Or is the whole Charlotte Day thing an elaborate branding strategy? I freeze, key in the door. In this timeline, he has no way of knowing my birth date. I've been careful to keep that information private, precisely to avoid this question. What makes you ask? I counter. Just connecting dots. The festival date, your name? He shrugs. Plus, I may have noticed the small cake your assistant brought to your office that day. I weigh my options. Denying it seems pointless. Yes, I admit, July 16th is my birthday. He laughs, genuinely delighted by this confirmation. That's brilliant. You've literally turned your birthday into a citywide celebration. His expression turns more thoughtful. Most people just have dinner with friends. I'm not most people, I repeat my earlier words, and clearly. He gives me that look again, part admiration, part curiosity. You know, you remind me of someone, though I can't place who. A chill runs through me. I have that kind of face, I guess. No, he says slowly. You definitely don't. I get into my car before he can see the effect his words have on me. As I drive away, I glance in my rearview mirror to see him still standing there, watching me go. 3 years later, I stand at the window of my expanded office, watching workers hang Charlotte Day Festival banners along the main downtown thoroughfare. What began as a one-day event has grown into a week-long celebration that draws tourists from across the country. And I've grown with it. At 28, I run a successful event marketing company with 15 employees. My personal brand is inseparable from the festival that bears my name. Local magazines feature me in their 30 under 30 inches lists. Business schools invite me to speak about innovative marketing strategies. I've become exactly what I set out to be: visible, significant, impossible to ignore. especially to James Porter. Despite my initial resistance, our companies have developed a working partnership. His digital platform handles the increasingly complex technological needs of the growing festival, while my team manages the creative and logistical elements. It's a successful professional relationship that has inevitably developed personal dimensions as well. We're not dating. I've been careful to maintain that boundary, but we've become something adjacent to friends. Dinner meetings that run late into the night, inside jokes about committee members, the occasional text that has nothing to do with work. It's dangerous territory, and I know it. Charlotte, my assistant knocks on my open door. Adrian Foster is here to see you. I frown. I don't have an appointment with Adrian. He says it's urgent. Adrian Foster is the event director for a neighboring city, a man whose festival, our Charlotte Day celebration, has consistently outperformed since its inception. He's made no secret of his resentment. Send him in, I say, curious. Adrian strides into my office with the false confidence of someone on shaky ground. Charlotte Day, he says, my name sounding like an accusation in his mouth. Congratulations on another successful permit approval. The whole week leading up to July 16th. Quite an expansion. Thank you, Adrian. What can I do for you today? He places a folder on my desk. I've been doing some research on the historical significance of July 16th in this city. My pulse quickens slightly, but I keep my expression neutral. It's well documented as the city's founding date. Is it, though? He flips open the folder. Because according to the State Historical Society, the actual signing of the city charter occurred on July 23rd. July 16th was merely when the surveyors completed their initial mapping, a preliminary step at best. I knew this, of course. My selection of July 16th was always more about my birthday than historical accuracy, though the coincidental connection provided necessary legitimacy. Historical records from that period are often inconsistent, I say smoothly. We've worked closely with city historians to ensure our celebration honors the full founding process, which certainly began with that initial survey. That's a creative interpretation, Adrian says with a thin smile. Almost as creative as building an entire festival around your own birthday and convincing the city to fund it. So he knows. I wonder who told him, though it hardly matters now. The date connection is a coincidence that's become part of the festival's charm, I reply. The event's value to the city speaks for itself, regardless of namesake or timing. Does it? Adrian's smile widens. Because I've been speaking with several city council members who might be interested to learn how they've been manipulated into essentially throwing you a multi-million-dollar birthday party each year. Before I can respond, there's another knock at my door, and James walks in without waiting for an invitation. Sorry, I'm late for our... He stops, noting Adrian's presence. I didn't realize you had company. Mr. Foster was just leaving, I say firmly. Adrian gathers his materials slowly, making it clear this conversation isn't over. Think about what I said, Charlotte. This festival may have your name, but it belongs to the city. People deserve to know the truth about what they're celebrating. After he leaves, James turns to me with raised eyebrows. What was that about? I consider deflecting, but find myself wanting to tell him the truth. Or at least part of it. He's discovered that July 16th isn't as historically significant as we've presented it to be, and that it happens to be my birthday. And that threatens him how exactly? James asks, settling into the chair across from my desk. He thinks I manipulated the city into funding an elaborate birthday celebration for myself. To my surprise, James laughs. That's absurd. The festival generates millions in tourism revenue and has put this city on the map. No one cares if the historical connection is slightly exaggerated or if you happen to share a birthday with it. His easy defense of me is both comforting and unsettling, a reminder of how our relationship has evolved in this timeline, despite my attempts to keep him at a distance. Nevertheless, I say, Adrian could cause problems with the council if he pushes this narrative. Then we push back, James says simply. We emphasize the economic impact, the community engagement, the positive press, all the things that actually matter. We? I raise an eyebrow. Of course. He looks surprised that I would question his support. My company's success is tied to this festival too, but more than that. He hesitates. I consider you a friend, Charlotte. I'm not going to let someone like Adrian Foster undermine what you've built. Friend. The word both warms and wounds me. In my first life, James went from stranger to lover to husband so quickly that we never developed the friendship that should have been our foundation. Now, ironically, we have the foundation but nothing built upon it. Thank you, I say, pushing aside these complicated feelings. But I can handle Adrian. I know you can, but you don't have to handle him alone. James leans forward, his expression earnest. That's what partners are for. The word partners hangs between us, loaded with potential meanings. Speaking of partnership, he continues, that's actually why I stopped by. I have a proposal for you, a business proposal. He clarifies quickly, seeing my expression. He outlines a plan to expand the Charlotte Day Festival concept to other cities across the state. A franchise model that would maintain the central branding while adapting to each location's unique character and history. We could create a Charlotte Day experience in 5 major cities by next year. He explains, his enthusiasm infectious. Your creative vision, my technology, Eliza's venue connections, it's the perfect combination. The idea is brilliant, exactly the kind of expansion I've been considering but haven't fully formulated. Of course, James would see the same opportunity. In either timeline, his business instincts are impeccable. It's an interesting concept, I admit, but not without risks. The biggest risks yield the biggest rewards, he counters, using the exact phrase he often repeated in my first life. Think about it, Charlotte. This could transform a local festival into a state tradition, with your name at the center of it all. So, my name, my birthday, my visibility, everything I've been working towards since my rebirth. I'll consider it, I tell him, though in truth, I've already made my decision. 2 weeks later, I filed a trademark application for Charlotte Day Festival with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. The approval comes through just as we announce the statewide expansion plan. Adrian Foster's allegations about historical inaccuracies appear in a small article in the local paper, but the story gains no traction. As James predicted, no one cares about the historical technicalities when the festival has become such a beloved and economically beneficial tradition. By year's end, I'm accepting a state tourism award for economic impact, with James and Eliza flanking me on stage as partners in what has become the fastest-growing event series in the region. As I give my acceptance speech, I catch James watching me with an expression I recognize from my first life, pride mixed with something deeper, more personal. In that moment, despite all my careful boundaries and strategic distance, I realize I'm in dangerous territory. Because while I've successfully made my name unforgettable, I haven't quite managed to make my heart forget him. At 30, I've built everything I set out to create after my rebirth. My event marketing empire spans 3 states. The Charlotte Day Festival has become a recognized brand with celebrations in 12 cities. My name appears on most influential lists in business publications. I've achieved in this timeline what I never even dreamed of in my first life: success, recognition, significance. On paper, my revenge is complete. James Porter can't possibly overlook me now. My birthday has become a cultural phenomenon he couldn't forget if he tried. Yet as I sit across from him in my expansive corner office, listening to his merger proposal, I feel strangely hollow. The synergy is undeniable, James is saying, spreading charts across my desk. Your events platform, my technology infrastructure, together we'd be unstoppable. The merger makes perfect business sense. In the 5 years we've been working together, our companies have become increasingly integrated. This would simply formalize what already exists in practice. But nothing is simple when it comes to James Porter. It's a significant step, I say carefully. I've worked hard to build this company independently. And you'd still have autonomy, he assures me quickly. Think of it more as a partnership of equals than a traditional merger. Partnership. There's that word again, loaded with meanings he can't possibly understand. I'll need time to consider it, I tell him. Of course. He gathers his materials, then hesitates. There's something else I wanted to discuss, but maybe now isn't the time. What is it? I ask, recognizing the nervous energy emanating from him. James takes a deep breath. This is going to sound crazy, but I can't shake the feeling that we've known each other longer than we actually have. My blood runs cold. What do you mean? I don't know how to explain it, he continues, clearly uncomfortable. Sometimes you'll say something or give me a certain look, and it feels so familiar, like deja vu. And I've had these dreams. He stops, shaking his head. Never mind, it's ridiculous. Dreams? I prompt, unable to help myself. Just dreams where we've known each other in a different way, where things didn't go well between us. He laughs awkwardly. See? Ridiculous. Forget I mentioned it. Before I can respond, my assistant interrupts through the intercom. Miss Day, Adrian Foster is here. He says it's urgent. James frowns. Adrian again? I thought he'd given up after his historical accuracy campaign failed. Apparently not, I sigh. Send him in, I tell my assistant. Adrian enters, looking even more smug than during our last encounter 3 years ago. Charlotte, James, how convenient that you're both here. What do you want, Adrian? I ask, my patience already thin. He places a flash drive on my desk. Evidence that the Charlotte Day brand was built on deliberate manipulation of historical facts for personal gain? James steps forward. We've been through this already. No one cares about the exact founding date. This isn't about dates anymore, Adrian interrupts. This is about intent. I have emails from the early planning stages where Charlotte explicitly discusses using her birthday to create a personal branding opportunity and leveraging historical coincidence to build her own platform. My stomach drops. Those emails do exist. Exchanges with Eliza from the very beginning, when I was still formulating the concept. Nothing illegal, but certainly revealing about my true motivations. How did you get access to private emails? James demands. Let's just say someone who used to work for Charlotte was quite illuminating. Adrian smiles thinly. I'm taking this to the city council and the press, unless you're willing to discuss transferring the primary festival management to my company for next year's events. You can remain involved, of course, but in a reduced capacity. It's blackmail, plain and simple. Get out, I tell him, my voice deadly calm. After he leaves, James turns to me. He's bluffing. Even if those emails exist, they'd only prove you're a marketing genius who saw a branding opportunity. We can spin this. We, I ask, echoing our conversation from years ago. Of course. He looks at me intently. Charlotte, whatever's in those emails doesn't change what you've built. But we need to address this head on before Adrian controls the narrative. His immediate support, his instinctive alignment with me against a threat, it reminds me of the early years of our marriage in my first life, before his priorities shifted away from me. Thank you, I say quietly. James steps closer, hesitating before speaking again. About what I was saying earlier, about feeling like we've known each other before. James, just hear me out. His eyes hold mine, searching. I know it sounds crazy, but I can't shake this feeling that we're connected somehow. That in some other reality, things went differently between us. For a moment, I'm tempted to tell him everything. About our marriage, his forgotten birthdays, my death and rebirth. But what would that accomplish except to make me seem delusional? Perhaps in another life, I say lightly, trying to diffuse the intensity of the moment. Maybe, he smiles slightly. But I'm more concerned with this life right now. He takes another step toward me. Charlotte, I've wanted to ask you for years, why have you kept me at arm's length? We work well together. There's clearly something between us. But every time I try to get closer, you pull away. The direct question catches me off guard. In this timeline, I've never given him any reason to understand my reluctance. It's complicated, I manage. It doesn't have to be. His hand reaches for mine, and despite my better judgment, I don't pull away. Life's too short for complications. If there's something between us, shouldn't we at least explore it? Life's too short. If only he knew how literally I understand that sentiment. Looking at him now, earnest, present, so different from the man who forgot my birthday and indirectly caused my death, I feel my carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. Maybe we should, I hear myself say. His smile in response makes my heart twist with both hope and fear. Because despite everything I've built in this second chance at life, despite all my success and visibility, I've never fully addressed the most painful part of my first life, loving someone who gradually stopped seeing me. And now I'm about to risk it all over again. 2 months into our new relationship, James and I are developing strategies to counter Adrian's threats when my phone buzzes with a call from Eliza. Charlotte, have you seen the news? Her voice sounds tight with concern. No, what's happened? Adrian Foster just gave an interview claiming the Charlotte Day Festival is built on historical fabrication and personal vanity. He didn't explicitly mention your emails, but he hinted at forthcoming evidence. I close my eyes briefly. Thanks for the heads up. After hanging up, I relay the information to James, who's been working from my condo all morning. He's making his move, James says grimly. We need to get ahead of this. How? If he releases those emails, then we control the narrative. James paces the room, thinking aloud. What if we lean into it? Yes. You created a brilliant marketing strategy that aligned your personal brand with a city celebration. Yes, you leveraged a historical coincidence to build something meaningful, so what? That's not a scandal, it's a business school case study in successful branding. His approach is clever, but I'm not convinced. The council might see it differently. They don't like feeling manipulated. They like tourist dollars and positive press coverage, James counters. And besides, we've discovered something interesting about Adrian's sudden crusade against you. What? James pulls out his tablet, showing me financial records. Meridian Events Group has been quietly funding Adrian's investigations into Charlotte Day. They're a national company looking to expand into our market. They want to discredit me so they can take over the festival franchise, I realize. Exactly. This isn't about historical accuracy or public interest. It's a corporate takeover attempt. We spend the next week building our counter strategy, working so closely that the lines between personal and professional blur completely. James practically moves into my condo, our days spent strategizing and our nights spent in an intimacy that feels both new and hauntingly familiar. One night, as we lie in bed reviewing press statements, I find myself studying his profile. The same face I once knew so well, now slightly different in this timeline. What? He asks, catching my gaze. Nothing, just thinking about how strange life can be. He sets aside his laptop. Strange how? The paths we take, the choices we make, how one decision can change everything. James turns to face me fully. Like your decision to create Charlotte Day? Or mine to propose a partnership? Both, all of it. I hesitate, then ask the question that's been haunting me. Do you ever wonder who you might have been if you'd made different choices? Sometimes. He traces a finger along my arm thoughtfully. I might have focused exclusively on tech development instead of event integration. Might have moved to Silicon Valley instead of staying here. Might never have met you. The irony of his words twists in my chest. In my first life, he did meet me, and gradually forgot me anyway. Would that have been so terrible? I ask softly, not meeting me. His expression grows serious. Yes, it would have. He pulls me closer. Charlotte, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've felt since we started working together. My heart races, afraid of what might come next. I've never believed in fate or destiny, he continues, but from the moment we met in that first committee meeting, I felt this recognition, like I was finding someone I'd lost. Tears threaten at the corners of my eyes. James, let me finish. I know this sounds insane, but I've had these recurring dreams where we're together, but differently, where I lose you somehow. And I wake up feeling this overwhelming regret for something I can't even remember doing. Cold shock washes over me. His words echo my reality so closely that for a moment I wonder if somehow, impossibly, he remembers our first life together. What happens in these dreams? I ask, my voice barely audible. They're fragmented. We're in a house I've never seen. You're upset about something I've forgotten. There's rain, a phone call. He shakes his head. It sounds ridiculous saying it out loud. It doesn't, I whisper. James studies my face. There's more to your story than you've told me, isn't there? More than just brilliant marketing strategy behind Charlotte Day. This is the moment. My opportunity to tell him everything about our marriage, about his neglect, about my death and inexplicable rebirth, about my years spent building a life he couldn't ignore. But what purpose would it serve, except to burden him with guilt for actions he never committed in this timeline? The truth is, I begin slowly, my birthday was always a difficult day for me. Growing up, it was often overlooked or forgotten because of summer vacations and competing priorities. I wanted to create something that would make it special, not just for me, but for everyone. It's not the whole truth, but it's not a lie either. James nods, accepting this partial explanation. And you've succeeded brilliantly. No one will ever forget Charlotte Day now. The irony of his words, so similar to what he once said in my first life, hits me hard. But this time, there's no dismissal in his tone, only admiration. Later that night, as James sleeps beside me, I slip out of bed and stand by the window, looking out at the city illuminated below. In 2 weeks, it will be decorated with Charlotte Day banners and lights, celebrating the festival that bears my name and my birthday. My phone buzzes with a late-night text from Eliza. We need to talk about these dreams James is having. I think you should tell him the truth. I stare at her message in shock. How does she know about his dreams? About my truth? Her follow-up text arrives before I can respond. Some things can't be explained by logic, Charlotte. I've suspected for years that your market predictions weren't just good guesses. No one could have been that consistently right. It's time to be honest, with James and with yourself. My hands shake as I type back, what exactly do you think you know? Her response is immediate. That you've lived this before. That you came back to change things. That Charlotte Day isn't just about making your mark. It's about making sure you're never forgotten again. I sink onto the edge of the bed, mind reeling. How could Eliza possibly know this? I've never told anyone about my rebirth. A third text appears. You're not the only one who pays attention to patterns, Charlotte. We'll talk tomorrow. In the meantime, consider what you really want from this second chance. Revenge or healing? I look back at James sleeping peacefully, unaware of our shared past that only I remember. Eliza's question echoes in my mind. Revenge or healing? For the past decade, I've been driven by the need to ensure I'm never invisible again, never forgotten. But now, facing the possibility of a relationship with James that could be different this time, I wonder if what I really needed all along was the chance to heal. Not just to be seen, but to be truly loved. The choice before me isn't just about how to handle Adrian's threats or whether to tell James the truth. It's about what I want from this second chance at life. Revenge has brought me success, recognition, a legacy. But it hasn't brought me peace. As dawn breaks over the city that now celebrates my birthday as its own, I make my decision. Whatever happens with Adrian and his allegations, whatever complications arise from merging our companies, I'm going to give James and myself a chance at the relationship we never truly had in my first life. Not because I've forgotten the past, but because I've finally found the courage to create a different future.